is data validation? So basically, data validation is a tool we use to validate our data. To validate means is either our data is correct or not, like as per our parameter. For example, whenever you go for any exam, okay, so whenever you go for any exam, let's say especially the government exams, so what you do, there are some parameters. So as per the parameters, they will basically check now that you are eligible or not. Or else if you go for an interview or anywhere, so they check that either you are up to the mark or not as per the uh, guidelines, correct, as per the requirement. So that is what data validation does. For example, let's see, this is the particular data and we need to work on it. Okay, so what will happen, in the data tab, you will get an option. So in the data tab, you will get an option of data validation here. In the data tab, in the data tools group, you will get an option of data validation. Okay, so this particular data validation is used for what? So there are many things. You need to keep in mind 2 to 3 points. The first one is what is the use of data validation? So data validation, so it is, the first one is to figure out invalid data. Second, to avoid uncertain invalid data, or you can say that to implement guidelines. These are the three top things you need to do because of what the data validation is required. Okay. The first one is to figure out the invalid data. So what you do, you just implement a rule, and as per the rule, if that particular data is invalid, means it's incorrect. Okay, so then you can figure it out to use the data validation function. To avoid inserting the invalid data, that once you will provide a rule, then it will not allow you to insert any wrong data. Okay, and the third one and the most important one is to implement rules and guidelines. Okay, to implement rules or guidelines. So basically, you provide a rule or a guideline that let's say there is a rule in the school that if you will score 50%, then only you will get pass. So how many of them are like below 50%, or how many of them are above 50%? These are the things. So first you implement a rule, then you find out the wrong data as per the rule, and third, then you avoid inserting wrong data as well. Okay, so there are many options, there are many functions in the data validation you are going to use. For example, go to the data tab, but before that you need to use a particular area. Let's say here I have implemented a, like I have written some numbers in this area. I have implemented a number. Now what I am going to do, now, first I'll selected the area. Now here I am going to implement a data validation. Now, whenever you will be opening the data validation, the first thing you'll be getting is a setting. From here, you need to implement a rule. From here, you need to put a message. Let's say if you are going against the rules, or if you are putting invalid data, then you are going to do put a message, that what message you should be getting. And the third one is error alert. There are three levels of error alert. First one is information. In that condition, what will happen? It will just show you once that you are putting invalid data or it is against the rules, but it will allow you to put the details. Warning, it will be telling you that don't do this because this is against the rules, but even though you can do it. Stop means it won't allow you to enter the invalid data in any scenario. So these are the three levels of like error alerts. Okay, and avoiding the data. Now coming to the setting part. The first one is whole number. So let's say I provided the whole number, and there are a number of things so you can use it. So what I provided, I need the whole number from 500, so from 500 to 800. According to me, in this particular area, the number that should be available should be between 500 to 800 only. Okay, not less than 500, neither more than 800. I have implemented this rule. So what will happen? Let's say, let's try it in the all three options. So what is this? So first is one, the stop option. The title would be error message only, please keep it between 500 to 800. I put this message as a stop. I have provided okay. So now basically what it does, it doesn't correct the old particular data. Okay, it doesn't correct the old data because the old data that is incorrect, it will remain incorrect. But what you can do, how can you figure out that which data is incorrect? So for that, there is, after implementing the rule, you can select this one, circle invalid data. So you have selected circle invalid data. So you can see that what we said, that we need the data from 600 to 800. So these are the three only cells, the uncircled cells. These are the true data. These are the correct data as per the rule. And as per the rule, all other cells are either less than 500 or more than 1000. So that is why they are either less than 500 or more than 800. So that is why all the data is invalid. Now let's see that, okay, clear, you have clear validation circle. Even though now you can't put any data that is invalid. Like let's say if here I need to put 755, okay, I can put it. But if here I want to put 976, I won't be able to. So here I'm getting a notification. Okay, like 976, I am putting it. I'm getting a notification that don't put a number. Please keep it between 500 to 800. Okay, for the first number also, it will be getting this notification only, but it was not visible. Like because my system is a bit slow. It was just a blank, but yeah, you are getting the same notification. That is why I implemented. It's not about the number. And here, as I told you, you have implemented stop. So that is why you won't be able to change the number. But let's say for the same data validation, what we will do, we will change the error alert label. So, warning. We have just done what? Warning. Okay. Now going to change the same thing. For this, it will be putting you the warning. Now it is saying, please keep it between 500 to 800. Now it is asking continue. Now if you press yes, so it will get changed. Now, because it is just showing you a warning, it can't stop you from doing anything, but it can show you a warning that don't put a number, please keep it between 500 to 800. If you will press continue yes, then it will change to 987. Earlier, you don't have any option to put an invalid data, right? Now it will show you the notification, but after the notification, you can change it. Now coming to the same thing, information. I just selected the information. Okay. Now changing the data. It is just showing the information. If I'll press OK, so it will get changed to 450. Coming to the settings, it is about whole number. Same about decimals. Like if you want to provide the numbers between decimals. Okay. Now this is the list. So basically this is known as drop down list. This is known as drop down list. Why? Because here you will be getting the list of drop down numbers. So let's say understand it in this way. Here, or what we can do. So within this particular customer segment, we have what? We have how much? So we have only 4 different options. Segment, we have only 4 options. So what I want that within this particular area, we have only these 4 options. So I will get a drop down list of these 4. Like whenever you need to select the customer segment from here to here, you'll always be getting an option from this particular list only, from this particular list. So what I'll do, I have selected the area, I've gone to the data tab, I've gone to the data validation, and from here, I'll select the list. I'll select the list, and here it is asking about the source data. So for the source data, I need to select the list of this corporate, home office, small business, and consumer. So I selected OK. So in all the cells from here to here, you'll get a drop down button. This is drop down button. Whenever you'll be selecting it, you will be getting a drop down list. So here, like you don't need to ask that what would be the customer segment, because you have only 4 options. Okay, and you can select any one of them. Like from here, you can create the drop down list. So this is the drop down list. Like here also, I need to select the area, because the cell range you will select it only up to that one, the data validation will get implemented. Okay, and one more thing, like in one cell you can't implement more than one data validation. Let's say that if in this particular area, if you have implemented a data validation, it means on this you can't implement another data validation. Okay, now I was just saying that after that particular list, there are multiple options as well. Like here, from after the list also, there is a date. So date means basically it will be providing you an option that you'll provide a date range or a specific date, that what date it should be. Time also, it will be providing you a range of times. Text length. Text length is basically what? The length of the numbers it will be counting. It how many letters a space bar or something can be used here. Like for example, let's say here I have selected this particular range. Okay. And for this area, I have selected a text range. So text range should be text length. So text length should be minimum 4 and maximum 8. Okay. And I'll press OK. So if I put it here, any 3 digit, so it won't provide. Okay. But let's say the text length would be at least 4 digits, and it should not be more than 8. So if even if I want to put it here, so I won't be able to put it here. So basically this is the text length. Text length means it will be counting the number of letters we will be writing in a particular cell. Okay, now after that, this is the custom. Basically, custom is the most important part. We mostly use list, and after that we use custom. Why custom? Because the custom you need to use any formula, whichever is required. Let's say, for example, here I want that no number should be get repeated. Okay, no number should get used more than once. Okay, once you have used a single number, then it should not be used once again. So for that purpose, anybody has any idea which formula we will be implementing? We have already learned that formula. That is why I am asking. Basically, if we'll be implementing COUNTIF, obviously we are going to implement the COUNTIF, because in COUNTIF only we have an option that on a particular condition we'll be counting the numbers, right? So, but here you have a problem that you won't get the COUNTIF formula written. So basically, for writing a counting formula, you should be you should memorize that what are the contents. So let's say if you'll here you'll be implementing COUNTIF. Okay, so what it is asking for a range and for a criteria, right? So then we'll come to this particular number. We are going to this data validation. We went to the customs. And after the customs, we'll be selecting what is equal to this cell is equal to COUNTIF small bracket. The first content was range, right? So we have selected range, we have fixed it, comma. The second was criteria, right? So this is equal to this. And now we'll be implementing the main for point is like this should be equal to 1. Because whenever you will be counting any of the numbers within this particular area, then the result should be 1. That is the basic logic you need to implement. Okay, if let's say it should not be more than 2, but if it should not be more than 2, it means it should be equal to or greater than 2, right? So, like in Excel, whatever you are learning from the very beginning till the end, you should always be capable enough to mix those things, like using multiple things. Just to get your results, you should be capable enough to figure out that which are the 2 or more than 2 formulas or functions or tools you need to use to get your data, right? That is why here I have put it some formula in the custom section, so that you can figure out that, okay, one day we have learned the COUNTIF for counting that how many times in a range that number, that particular data is being used. And similarly, today we are using that COUNTIF formula in the data validation. Okay, so data validation is a tool and COUNTIF is a formula. So what we have used is equal to COUNTIF. We have selected the range, we have selected the cell, and that value should always be equal to 1, right? Provided. Okay, now let's see if there is 455. Okay, so here I'll put 455. It's just showing me a notification. So what basically it will implement it. But now here I am going to make some changes. Like in the error alert, I won't put it as information, I'll put it as stop. Okay, and here I'll put it don't repeat as title, and here please don't put an existing number range. Okay, so I basically made it clear that please don't put an existing number from the range. So within the range, you don't need to put any number. And then I have put it a title as don't repeat. So now if we'll implement okay. Now, if you want to highlight the invalid data, so this you can circle the invalid data. So you can see that the 455 is the invalid data. And now if you wish to put anything like here, if let's say I need to put 495, so it will be showing you one, right? So you won't be able to implement. So that is what I am trying to say, that this is the data validation, the complete data validation you wanted to learn. Okay. Rather than that, after that, what we do have